I think that you ought to be able to drink alcohol at 18. Uh, if you can serve your country at that age, you ought to be able to drink too. So you'd have the full obligations, and opportunities as an adult, and that's what you owe when you're 18. It would be it would be difficult to do it like all at once. I mean, it would have to be stepped in, and or people come to it more slowly than that. I can imagine you running into the town tavern tomorrow and drinking yourself silly. But if you understood that at 18 that's what was going to happen, and society treated you like an adult, and gave you some education around it as opposed to just denial, it will be fine.
Too long.
I think this country has a it just doesn't do alcohol very well. I mean, everybody does alcohol, but it's sold as sexy and interesting and a good time, but yet those that it's being sold to are told they can't use it, and it creates difficulty, I think, in kids, adults, minds your age and younger. And the trouble with this country is that it wants outlawed alcohol altogether, and so there's this sort of love-hate or knowledge denial dichotomy about the use of alcohol. And so, I mean, and I experience it as a parent also. Well, Dad, can I drink? Well, no, you can't. Not until you're out of sight is sort of the subliminal message, which I think sends the wrong message to a large degree. And so kids experiment on their own, and because they're experimenting and they don't know what the limit is, maybe they end up at the hospital. Here's what I think about alcohol and drug use for people in general is that it's going to grab a certain percentage of the population and drag them under. A lot society can do to change that. And so, of your class, Abby's class, Dakota's class, there's going to be, say, 10%, and that's a total rough estimate of the number of kids that you're going to look around at 10, 20, 30 years from now and think, oh my God, that substance just destroyed their lives. And it does. But, the other 90%, there's nothing that the judicial system is going to do to change your behavior, because it doesn't need any changing. You drink and you're not supposed to, and people have been drinking when they're not supposed to forever. So if you are going to drink, you're better off doing it in the safety of your own home, because it's a whole lot easier for the cops to make a case against you if you're caught drinking in public. And so if you're, say, drinking in a park, for instance, all the cops have to prove is that you smell like you've been drinking and you look like you've been drinking, and then you're guilty of a crime. I mean, that's a really low threshold for the cops to be able to prove their case. They bolster their case by saying, here, put this portable breath test in your mouth, blow. Not that that number is admissible in court for any reason whatsoever, but once they get a number that registers positive, then they say, well, so have you been drinking? And you feel like you got to say yes, in which case not only do they have you smelling like booze, looking like you've been drinking, but you're saying you've been drinking. They got you cold. In the context of drinking on private property, they have to, one, either get you to admit that you've been drinking along with those other indicators, that is smelling and looking, and or actually catch you with a alcohol container in your hand or in close proximity. The nice thing about doing it in your house is the cops can come to the door and they'll say, could you step out on the porch? And the proper response, if you don't want to get arrested right then and there, is no thank you. And then they'll say, well, can we come in? And you can say no thank you again, because they can't come into your house. They can't come across the threshold of your home, that is the doorway, without a warrant. And so what are they trying to do when they come to the door? They're trying to get you to step out onto the porch, because once they do that, then you're in public, you smell like you've been drinking, you look like you've been drinking, and maybe you even admit to it, and they can arrest you. You can say the same thing to them as long as you're on the other side of the threshold of the open door. They don't get to come in. So, I'm not advocating that you drink anywhere, because of course it's illegal, but in terms of legal protections, you're a lot safer doing it in your own home. Although, let's say it's Dakota's home, and he's throwing a party, and there's a bunch of other kids there. That puts his parents at risk for furnishing liquor to minors if they have any idea what was up. And I recall a particular instance that happened at my house, in which I'm in bed and kids are partying on the other side of the house, and I'm quite sure the cops, when they come to my door, they're thinking, that somehow I'm mixed up in it. I'm not, but it puts me at risk as the owner of the home, and it puts Dakota, if it's his house, at risk for furnishing liquor to all the kids there, and not only just criminally but civilly. And so the trouble with kids drinking alcohol your age is you don't quite know when to stop. So you drink until they got to take you to the hospital. That's not okay. And it's not okay if you're furnishing the liquor to some kid that doesn't know when to quit drinking. So I think that a better model for it is drinking in Europe, where it's something that is, it's not exactly condoned, but society doesn't, have a real bright line rule. So you have a glass of wine with dinner. You learn in the company of adults, how much is okay and how much isn't okay. I think that's a better way to do it, but it ain't coming here anytime soon.